I have no idea what we talked about on our episode that didn't get released.
Episode 0. Everyone's asking about it.
What are we?
I bet it was Bowerman stuff because episode 1 was a lot of Bowerman stuff.
It was Bowerman.
Episode probably like 1 through 20 were a lot of Bowerman stuff.
I mean, it still is, man.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Sit and Kick podcast. Psych, you thought this is Coffee Club. Get out of here, Sit and Kick. You guys suck. No, that was too mean. We like them, but
a little joke to start off the
as they would call it, banter.
That was such good banter, Morg.
Yeah. But this is episode 40. Everyone is back. The boys are back. No more of those late night calls over FaceTime. What we had to do in Europe. Those were a couple of tough episodes to get in, I will say.
Sharing a beard.
Like Harry Styles, man. New Harry Styles album, Late Night Talking. Just late night talking for me and George.
Wait, can I just ask you, do you like that album?
There's like 3 songs.
Okay.
It's disappointing because I feel like the Fine Line album was so good. And it's been good for years. Like, do you know what I mean? You could keep listening to it for years. Whereas this album, it seems a bit boring, to be honest. But I do like a couple of songs, I have to admit.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but I haven't heard people talking about it like I thought it would because I feel like Harry Styles is so damn popular now. But it's more just because he's Harry Styles. It's not like because of the new album. But that's a random aside. Today we have Joe KLECKER back on the show.
Number 2.
Yeah, how? It must have been so long ago that you were on.
Because it was in Florida, like first week back running.
It feels like a lifetime ago, but yeah, it feels good to have him back because we've obviously wanted to get him on for a very long time. He's obviously been crushing it this season, and he just gets back from racing Europe as well. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. But yeah, I think we just jump back into it with a little recap of kind of what everyone's been up to. Me, nothing. Very boring here in Boulder, holding down the fort. But all these boys were racing over in Europe in the Diamond League, so I think we do a little rundown of that. First off, I guess we'll go with George, who raced in Paris it was last Saturday, right?
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, and that was, I gotta say, obviously, it's a Diamond League and it's sweet, but once we saw the weather report for that race, we knew it was gonna be tough because there was these heat warnings, and I think it was like over 30 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So we knew it was gonna be tough because the 5K is one of those events where it's already just so painful, and so if you bring in heat, all those types of factors, it makes it really hard. And obviously you wanted to run a quick time. I don't know, I guess George knows that he likes to compete, but if you're doing it,
competing over the quick times.
I was thinking about that actually after that. I was like, damn, I've said so much about not caring about running fast.
Yeah.
That like, how am I going to bring this back up? I think it's more like racing's the priority, but if I also end up running fast, then that's cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like if the product of like trying to race and trying to beat people and then you also end up running fast, that would be sweet.
Yeah, it's a nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, that would have been nice to come 6th and also run 30 no's.
Yeah, because that is the thing. If you come 6th in a Diamond League, you're hoping that's a low 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean 6th in Oslo was 13.06.
Yeah, so that's what you're hoping for. But if you end up running 13.19, which obviously in those conditions we all know was really impressive, because I mean it's hard to put a pure time conversion on it, but you can think that would be, I don't know, 10 seconds more maybe even, so who knows.
It's probably pretty individual.
Yeah,
but yeah, honestly Paris sucked. I hate to say it.
Just the whole trip.
Trip.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, actually mostly, I mean it was just over 100 degrees both days I was there, so like it was 36 degrees Celsius first day, 38 degrees the day I raced. And like you can't go outside during the day and do anything. You just have to like hole up in a European room which has just like barely functioning AC because apparently they don't care about AC in Europe. Like, and it just freaking, what these guys was like 60 degrees in Oslo.
Yeah,
beautiful.
We were just living it up, riding scooters around town all day.
After coming from St. Moritz too, where we just had like the freaking best time. It was beautiful every day. And then it was like poor air quality and just insanely hot in Paris.
Those cities are not made for the heat. There's a reason in a city like Paris, everyone leaves it for a month during the summer when it actually is really hot. It's just because, they're not designed for the heat. So they just, That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I was obviously happy to get into a race because I was definitely, looking back, like I was locked into going to Europe without really knowing if I was going to race or not. Like I was confident that I was going to get into something, and ideally it was going to be Oslo, and it ended up being Paris, which was still a good option. And obviously the field was really good. Just the conditions meant that it freaking sucked.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about afterwards, like, if you look at a forecast before you're trying to run a fast 5K, I don't know what the ideal temperature is, but it's got to be pretty cold, like probably in the 60s.
Low 60s.
Like if you see like 73, you're like, damn, that's pretty warm. I mean, it's probably doable, but I'd rather it was a little colder. You see 83, you're like, holy shit, that's going to be super uncomfortable. That's hot as hell. And at 93, that's just getting outrageous. Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be 30, 35 degrees hotter than you would think you could run your fastest.
Mm-hmm.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
And I was definitely one of the bigger guys in the field. And there's some science about, I think the theory is if you, like the more muscle mass you have, like a byproduct of working your muscles is heat. So the more muscle you have, the more heat you produce. So I think that's generally why bigger guys struggle in the heat.
You're a big boy.
That's why you gotta just live in a sauna and then
Yeah.
your body learns how to deal with it.
Dude, we are all kind of big guys. Relative to the
Oh
the
yeah,
guys that we-
Barega's probably not even 100 pounds.
I mean, I was thinking I probably had 50 pounds on Brega.
Yeah.
Easily. That dude was warming up in full sweats. I don't think he even noticed the heat. I was like, they had one of those big misting gun machine things, and I started the warm up like fully drenching my shirt and my hat, and then by the time I'd run a mile, like my shirt was almost dry. So it wasn't super humid, but it was just so hot by that point.
They had the water table during your race too.
Yeah, they did.
Well, okay, it was like 3K in, and I think it was Idris Mukhtar. Right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
literally tried to grab water, running like 60 seconds a lap. He didn't get
Yeah.
the water. Just
Wait,
shot
dude,
up in
I
the
tried
air.
to grab one.
Yeah, I was like,
I saw Jimmy Garcia grab one in front of me. I was like, damn, that's probably a good idea. Like, I'm dying. Yeah. And then next lap, I go and grab one and just completely miss it.
yeah, I don't think anyone.
Not
I
built
mean,
for
how
the
can you?
marathon.
You're going like 14 miles an hour, and it's just there's no way you can grab that.
You gotta somehow yell at them in French, just throw the water at me.
That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. Like, I just
Yeah,
want
like
him to throw
doing
it on
it
me.
is-
Yeah.
That was
Or
the
you
thing.
You just put you just use your hand and you just swipe it at you.
Yeah, or you do like that guy did in the Olympics and just knock them all over.
The whole table.
Just sabotage.
That was a
everyone
French guy,
else.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a French guy.
That was a French guy, yeah.
On the start line, that's what I was like, because it wasn't humid and I was still like had my singlet drenched. I actually, for a minute, I was thinking like maybe it's actually going to be all right. Like maybe this is still going to be fast, because without that humidity, like before you start going, it doesn't feel super bad.
Was the sun down too? I mean, like with the sun's not beating on the track,
Yeah.
that definitely helps a little bit.
Bill, yeah, it was. We raced at like 10:30.
Okay.
There was definitely like the track was still just like pouring heat and the
Yeah.
concrete as well. But then at some point, like 93 degrees is 93 degrees no matter what.
you can't
And
go.
so after probably seeing like 7 laps to go, maybe 6 laps to go, like I was hurting freaking bad, and it felt like my skin was just like burning. And yeah, that was probably easily the hardest track race I've ever run in terms
Really?
of just how uncomfortable it was.
I guess I believe
It's
that.
just impossible to like relax or get in a rhythm when you just like miserably hot.
Yeah.
But definitely still felt like 6th was a good result. Like before the race, I was thinking on a good day, I thought top 5 would be a good result. Like that was kind of where I was aiming for, and ideally that would also be fast, but not when it's that hot.
Mhm.
But 6th was solid.
Yeah, I'll take 6.
Yeah.
I'll take 6 in a diamond
6
league.
in
any
Diamond
day of
League,
the week.
man.
Yeah.
Pretty freaking impressive.
Did you have a good textbook George kickdown at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
shot onto
but-
my screen. I was like, "Where's George?" And then all of a sudden, he just shoots onto my television screens.
I think I was 9th, maybe 10th at the bell.
Oh, wow.
And I was talking to Mike Foppman after the race and before the race actually. Future, they want to be on the pod,
No
Jimmy
way.
and Mike.
Shout out
although-
to Mike Foppen.
Coffee Club Europe.
Yeah.
We're expanding.
We're expanding.
Coffee Club
Um,
Boulder.
Coffee Club Boulder, Coffee Club.
Yeah.
Apparently someone had warned him before the race to look over his shoulder with 100 meters to go because I might be coming up on him, and I passed him with like 90 meters to go.
Love to see
So
that.
sorry, Mike.
Hell yeah. No, but
Mike, you just got textbook George.
yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the George Show. No, I mean, it's definitely so hard to race in those conditions, but you did great, and hopefully, I'm going to say hopefully Eugene is not as hot. I mean, you never know. These days, Eugene gets pretty hot, and it gets pretty wild out there, and that can suck, but hopefully that's cooler, because then, yeah, if I feel like I've had that before, where you have one of those races in the season, and then the rest of the races relatively feel, I'm not going to say they feel easier, you know, but it's not as bad of a discomfort, so hopefully that's your experience this year. But yeah, so while George was in Paris, a couple of days before that was the big Oslo Diamond League. I guess it's technically called the Oslo Bislett Games.
Mm-hmm.
What's Bislett?
So
You missed the stadium.
No, it's
Bislett
the
Stadium,
neighborhood.
right?
Yeah, it's Bislett
yeah.
Stadium, but I think someone messaged me and they said, oh, like, Bislett is so amazing. And then I'm like, you mean like the stadium, the meet? And so I looked it up, and I think the neighborhood is called Bislett.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
It's,
makes
it's
sense.
after like a general Norwegian soldier and there's like this strawberry kind of festival thing that they do for Bislett Games. Joe and I weren't invited, but
Yeah.
it was really cool. It was in a beautiful room, and they had all these beautiful photos, like Diamond League and what else.
Super historic meet.
Yeah.
Like, you could just tell there's like so much history.
And they've done that for like every year. They have like these strawberries. It's like a big thing
Yeah.
for them. And Joe and I found out the last minute on social media that it was going on, so we didn't get the invite. We weren't exclusive
brutal.
enough. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. They're really good heritage there, and it's a pretty cool meet to be a part of. So
Yeah.
we're really excited for it.
I'm going to say everything about your trip to Oslo comparing to Paris. Like, Oslo did look amazing. You guys walking around the city, going to the coffee shop that you went to, which I'm sure you'll talk about, and then the hotel, and then you go to the stadium. Just even watching on TV, you could tell that the vibe in the stadium was absolutely amazing. Fully packed, people going crazy for the distance races. It was like Paris. I was watching Paris. I was like, man, that looks kind of sad in there.
Unless you were Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy was a friggin' celebrity in there. Everyone was going wild for him, but I think everyone was too hot.
Yeah, which makes sense. But yeah, so how was the whole Oslo trip?
It was pretty sweet. Like, once we got in, like, I'd never been to Norway. I don't think any of us had been to Norway. Dathan, myself, Alicia, or Ollie. Even Jordan Donnelly, who was there with us. And so, like, it was just really cool seeing that country. Like, the first thing we noticed owning Teslas was, like, every car there is electric. And we're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, I wonder why that is. And so that was, like, very cool, like, just the city. And then just, yeah, like, we got great coffee. The hotel was, like, probably one of the nicest hotels I've ever stayed at in my life. And so right away when we got there, everything was just, like, super fancy and posh, and huge salmon dinners, and
Just
like
stereotypical Norwegian.
yeah, like it was pretty crazy. And like, yeah, we went to cool down, or did a shakeout run when we got in along the water, and there's just these like houseboats with saunas, and I was like, man, if I was here a day earlier, like I would be in those saunas right now.
Yeah.
Just like literally on the fjord, people jumping in the water, crawling out, getting in the sauna.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. So yeah, like other than the race or anything, just being in the city was great in Oslo. It was super good vibe.
Ollie, what was it like for you to walk around the city and just see your competitor up on every single billboard?
It was interesting.
The Jakob
honestly.
show.
I mean, I thought it was super cool because, I mean, for one, I was noticing when I was walking around, everyone's like freaking 6'5". Like the average height in Norway for I think women is like 5'9" or 5'10" or something crazy like that.
Giants.
And then yeah, they're all Vikings. And anyway, we're walking through, like there's this posters, billboards, bus stops, all the Ingebrigtsen guys, Mercedes ads, vitamin water ads. It's just like they're literally celebrities. They're literally like what you'd see LeBron James on the boards in California, or you'd see the Nuggets like everywhere around here. It's just crazy, and it's really cool for the sport. Sure.
You asked Jakob if he could even leave the hotel, and he said no.
No, yeah, Jakob was hanging out at the gym. We were doing our shakeout before the race, and he was actually very friendly. Had a good chat with Dathan. Asked Dathan a couple of questions like, "Why'd you choose On?" And he was just interested in what we're doing leading into World Champs. But I asked him just general questions like, "Can you leave the hotel?" And he's like, "No, I got to go downstairs in the garage, get into a private car, and if I need to go anywhere, like I have to have like people around me because he just can't go anywhere. Like it's not just him as well, his brothers too. So it's just a crazy experience to see that, because track and field for us really don't have that kind of celebrity status, but he does. Like he's one of the best known people in Norway probably as an athlete. So that was really cool to see. It was a bit intimidating, I have to admit, because we'll get into it, but like there's 17,000 people. I think Jakob said they were selling standing tickets as well.
They said 15,000 and then 2,000 standing tickets,
Yeah.
and I think even still, like, it was sold out, and they could have sold more.
They could have sold more. Yeah, it was crazy. And like I remember going out, I think for the 5K too with Heinrich and Philip, going out with those guys there, like the crowd went nuts, like crazy.
Really?
Yeah,
I've
like so
never
we
experienced
were running
anything
onto
like
the
it.
track, and I was like the first one out on the track, and I was like, wow, this is like a ton of people, and I'm like doing a stride, and I just hear the crowd like erupt, and I thought like, you know, maybe like Mondo like jumped over the bar or something. And no, it was just Philip and Heinrich came out from underneath the stadium. I was like, this is insane. Like, they literally are cheering like someone just set a world record just because they walked on the stadium. And like, they were like getting photos with fans before the race. Like, people wanted autographs. Like, literally, the race is about to go off in like 2-3 minutes, and people are running down to be right on the rail to give them high fives. And ultimately, like, I don't think Heinrich had a great race and Philip DNF, but they're just like celebrities, and people just like, it makes sense they wanted to do the Bislett Games even if they weren't 100% fit and ready, just because Norway, like those fans, literally 17,000 people there wanted just to see them, you know,
Just to show
run
their
on home
faces.
soil.
Yeah.
It's like, that makes me feel like, I mean, that's kind of what that's a tiny taste of what it's like to be a pro athlete in a different sport. Think about if you're an NBA player, how, you know, they do the thing at the start of the game or before the game when they read out every single player's names, and everyone in the stands goes absolutely crazy. Like, they get that every night when they go out and play. But as a track athlete, you definitely don't expect it. So when you do get to feel it, you're like, holy shit, this is amazing.
The closest thing in the States is probably like a Oregon Duck competing at Hayward.
Yeah,
I would say that's a good
Yeah.
example.
that
Like
would. Yeah.
strategically in the mile, we went out and we had a whole lap before we got to
Yeah.
the start line. And Jakob,
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Jakob
they had to be on the track like
Yep.
10 or 15 minutes before the race, and every other race was like 5 minutes.
we had 10 minutes, and Jakob literally was about to walk out the corner door. He looks behind us and just goes like this, waves at us to come to him. He goes out first. The crowd just loses it. All these young kids with Norwegian flags just come straight down on the outside, and then he's just going along. And I give him a lot of credit for this, because this is before a big race, right? He's like trying to set the European record. He takes his time. He goes around. He high fives all these kids, waves. You know, just does his. You know, he's just doing what you'd usually do after a race. He was doing it before the race even started. A whole lap around, while everyone else is walking out. Me and Wyben are looking at each other, giggling and shit. Like, it's like, what the
Like,
fuck
what
is
is
going
this?
on? Like, it was crazy. Because it's just like Olympic champ competing in his home country for a country that's also relatively small. The amount of reception that he got, it's just like, it's cool. Like they give a shit, which I really respected and valued, and I thought the energy there was just fantastic.
That's definitely good for the sport.
Hashtag good for the
Yeah.
sport, baby. I mean, even like Joe said, Heinrich and Philip, like just the reaction you get. Like, you'd hope now that Joe going into a USA meet or like a Prefontaine Classic, that the same reception could come.
Yeah.
If you get that profile, that's what you hope. But it's just somehow, like, I don't know how you would be able to change that in the US, because Europe, it seems like that's been there for a while. Like when you have those superstars, you know, like Mondo in Sweden,
yeah.
like nuts,
Yeah.
absolutely nuts.
That's what you want to create, because those are the stuff that like just makes the sport feel so special. I got a little taste of it at my first World Champs in 2017. I was in Mo Farah's heat, and it was in the Olympic Stadium in London. Dude, it was like, just the whole race was like the loudest thing ever. And it, as a competitor, it definitely makes it feel extremely different when you're running all out and then like you just blaring in your ears. You can't hear anything. It's like, it's amazing. It makes for moments that you'll never, get again. It's
But you
just
go to
so
London
special.
and his face is up in the airport still, you know? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
I think that's why they get that status, is those countries really promote them, you know?
Well, what do we got coming up here? We got Olympics in LA, right, in 28. So we will see Joe KLECKER on every billboard, and is the next one.
Every airport, every billboard.
Is the next one in Australia after that?
yeah.
So we gotta take our opportunities, we gotta take our chances and make it happen for us, I guess.
Instead of Mercedes ads, we'll be on Tesla billboards.
Tesla billboards, yeah. Elon will be shaking hands with you before the
Mhm.
race. Yeah.
Dude, that'd be sick. But so Oslo was amazing, and you guys went to, what was the name of the coffee shop?
Tim Wimbledon.
Tim
Wendelbo.
So we posted that we were in Norway, nothing about coffee, and I had like maybe 4 or 5 people individually message me and say like, you have to go to this spot. And initially like it was 1.5 miles or 2 miles away, and so we were like, oh, like probably not worth it. But since I had so many people message me, we decided to get the scooters, and we scootered over there, which like we had to like literally go on like a highway. Like we were definitely in areas where the scooters were not meant to go.
Not permitted
to get to this coffee shop. But it was definitely worth it, and we hung out there like for a long time. Probably spent hundreds of dollars.
It was sick. It was so sick. It was the coolest coffee shop I've been to.
What? It's so famous because of one of their baristas, or is it just the coffee in
I
general?
think the guy who like started it is like maybe a barista champion or
world
like,
barista champion or
and
something.
so like
multiple years.
So
too.
and then I think after he won the like barista champion, like he started his own shop, and the shop is like famous because of like just he sources all the coffee, like maybe he trains the baristas and stuff, and it was really cool. The coolest thing about it was there was a line of like 20 people, and there's one barista, and she just like made each coffee individually, and like she did not care there's 20 people in line. Like she was gonna take her time and make like the perfect coffee for every person, which is really cool.
Yeah, you do
really
have
cool.
to
And
appreciate
the one thing as well is I feel like Joe and I noticed when we first went there is like usually some coffee shops like that, very high end ones, they're kind of snobby, kind of dicky, kind of like, oh, we're more, you know, superior than you, blah blah blah. Like you got to wait your turn. But they were really nice, really nice people, and
you didn't even know you could hardly tell it was a coffee shop. It was literally like off the beaten track on this corner like spot, like with a small little sign. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like
really
you had to know where you were going to get there. You wouldn't just stumble upon it.
Like, people went in there knowing like what they were gonna get, which was pretty sick. And we took Jordan Donnelly and Ritz. Ritz, a guy that doesn't really give a shit about coffee, starting to kind of convert to our ways a little bit. But they came with us the second time, and Joe and I, we would get like a mug and some beans. And beans are already gone in our house. We already had them, but it was a really cool place.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I'm very jealous that you guys got to do that. But moving on to the races, I guess we'll go with your race first, Joe, in the 5K. Well, even taking a step back, this was your first race in Europe, right?
Yeah, it was my first time traveling to Europe too.
So it was a whole crazy experience. I heard in the first few days you got there, you felt pretty terrible. Is that correct?
Yeah, so similar to Tokyo, like I've only done 2 international flights in my life, and that was Tokyo and now to Switzerland. And both times it's like hit me pretty hard. Like I need to learn how to get my body to come around after these flights, because I was seriously like questioning whether I'd even be able to race. Like, I'm
the same way, just so you know. Ollie is, I think Ollie sets a bad example for everyone because he's so amazing at it. But
Yeah,
dude, I'm like you.
Yeah, but like we're doing like a long run, and I'm just like literally like silent, like legs hurt so bad, and I'm just like, yeah. And then like Ollie is like just fine. I think Jordy was feeling probably a bit better, but I'm just like, I was like, yeah, in my head, I'm like, how is Ollie just like travel like 20 hours or whatever and just like do these long runs, feel fine? And so, but yeah, no, so like the first week in Switzerland is just like miserable. Like I'm every day just like suffering, like my legs hurt really bad. But then I finally decided to text Jason, our massage guy back in Michigan, and he sent me like one exercise to do, and instantly I felt like back to normal. And then me and Jordy got up the next day and had like pretty insane track session up at the St. Moritz track.
That was a sick workout too.
Yeah, we were like really feeling good, and that was our first day in the second iteration of our spikes, and so it was just like all around like great vibes. Like after the workout, we sat outside in the sun for probably 2 hours eating pizza.
Right.
Probably didn't recover very well that day, but it was a pretty good vibe. But yeah, into the race, you know, then after about a week, it was nice that we were there so far before the race, because it gave me time for my body to come around. And eventually it did. Once we got to Oslo, I really did feel pretty good. And
the compartment syndrome was
had
down.
settled. Yeah, I was honestly like thinking like I need surgery. Like my legs, like something's wrong. Like it always is in the back of my head. Like Dathan had all these surgeries when he was running, and I was like, when are my surgeries gonna happen?
Yeah, when they come around.
I was like, well, this is it.
Wait, I need to ask you, what was the exercise he gave you? I'm sure people are wondering.
Yeah, it was some like, it was really weird, like with a voodoo floss band. It was basically like mobilizing my fibular head, and so like I have pretty tight ankles, and so that often like makes my Achilles pretty sore. But then like as soon as I mobilize my ankles, like the Achilles just doesn't hurt at all. So like my Achilles are fine, but like yeah, so I had to mobilize the fibular head, and then everything was good like instantly. Like literally I went for a run that afternoon with Ollie, and we were like doubled that evening or something, and we ran like pretty quick, and
Yeah,
it was good.
It was desperate times.
Desperate times, yeah. But it's just crazy. Like Jason, like in Michigan from across the world, is like, oh yeah, just do this, and like you should be good. I'm like, okay.
That's like the best thing ever. It definitely is not always like that, but when you do have an issue and then someone gives you an exercise and it fixes it straight away.
Yeah,
oh,
because I was like trying to get treatment in St. Moritz, and you don't know who the therapists are, and it's very like you're just like, you know, the therapy office is like almost a mile away, so I'm like walking across town. I'm like, is this like worth it to like do all this walking? Like my legs hurt so bad already. Like, is it gonna be any like help?
You mean Reinhardt didn't help you with compartment syndrome?
Yeah, European massage is definitely a bit different. I was full moon on the table. I mean, never had that before.
It was so funny.
What about the sauna? You went to take the sauna out.
Oh yeah. So I found a sauna and in St. Moritz, and I was super excited. And then I was gonna go in it, and I thought it was included in like our elite athlete membership to the gym we were using, but she said no, like that would be 30 Swiss francs. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like I need to go in the sauna. Like I really want to. And I went up there and I'm wearing like my shorts. Like I had just finished, I think, a pool workout or a double or something. And I was walking into the sauna, and they literally stopped me and said, no, you have to be naked.
Take those pants off.
I was like, what do you mean? Like I have to be naked? I literally have to be naked? And yeah, so like I wore a towel, but like, yeah, it's definitely a little bit different in Europe. Like people
co-ed sauna.
Co-ed, yeah, co-ed
naked
too.
sauna.
Co-ed naked sauna. And yeah, so I didn't go back. Not for the naked reason, mostly for the 30 Swiss francs. Like,
yeah, it's a lot to pay for.
Yeah, like when I can just go down in my basement for free and wear my running shorts.
Only 30 Swiss francs.
Only 30 Swiss francs, yeah.
Wait, so you don't go naked in your sauna now? You haven't been converted?
I'm surprised you don't.
No, I haven't been converted because I normally go in right after I run, and so like I just jump in. But now on to the race. Yeah, so like. We had that really good workout in St. Moritz, and that like was giving me a lot of confidence. And looking at the field, I knew it was going to be a good race. Like there were some of the top Ethiopians who had already been selected for their national team. Like Wale has run 7:24 for 3,000, and so I was really excited to just compete. I think that like Jordy, I've kind of adapted his mindset a little bit, where like just going after a time sometimes isn't always like. I don't always like perform well when I'm just looking at the clock every lap. Like. So more so I'm like just focusing on like my positioning and stuff. In my race we had pace lights at 13 minutes, and I was saying how like it actually just kind of like stressed me out, like seeing those pace lights get away and then kind of seeing them come back. It's just like another factor that you don't want to think about. You're trying to think about racing the people in your race. But yeah, so going into the race, I really the main goal of it was just to like get some more experience racing some of the top competition in the world. I mean, like racing these top athletes, it's definitely like I think having experience is super important. So I just wanted to put myself up in the race early and just give myself the best shot to win the race. And I ended up finishing fourth. I was in third until maybe like 50 meters to go. And looking back at the race, like I really think I could have like done more to finish higher up. I got boxed in a bit at points, but again, that's like why I went to do this race, was to like make some of these errors and like hopefully fix them for the world championships. Because I think on this team, like everything is like geared towards the world championships. Everything is preparing us to do the best we can there. And so I think that for me personally, going to race some international competition was super important, just to like learn that. And as far as the time, I ran 13:04 again, like I did earlier in the season. But I think the difference with this 13:04 was it was like in a sense like a tactical race. Like in the middle of the race, we were running like 65, 64 second laps, which is like pretty slow.
What did you guys come through 3K?
I think we came through like 7:55. It was actually similar to what we came through in at Sound Running when I ran 13:04. But the difference with Sound Running was it was just like this very like good progression where we just kind of like picked it up every lap to the finish. And this race was much more like jockeying and slowing down. And like at one point I remember it was like really slowing down, and then Jack Rayner like sprinted to the front and like kept it moving, which was like pretty impressive. He ran a huge PR, but like his race was like, he definitely helped that race from slowing down even more than it did. But yeah, so it's like a good to like run kind of a tactical, in a sense, 13:04. It gives me a lot of confidence to like hopefully be able to break 13, because that's like you know, the times are one thing, but like to break those barriers is definitely still important. Like Ollie breaking 350 is like a huge barrier that you're excited about, and so breaking 13 is something I'm excited about, which I thought would happen in Oslo, but yeah, it slowed up a little bit too much in the middle, and I cared more about placing well in the race than, you know, being dead set on breaking 13 that day. But yeah, to finish third or fourth in that race amongst some of those top Ethiopian runners and some of the top Spanish runners and Australian runners was like a really good confidence booster going into world champs. And now we'll just like come back here and like get in some really hard training. And in my mind, that's like this is my ideal build up to Eugene.
Yeah.
If you just continue to finish fourth in big diamond leagues like that, like one of them is going to go sub 13. Like that just happens.
Yeah.
Like you put yourself in it to win, like you did. The move, like everyone thought the same thing at like 200 when you passed those two guys. It looked like you were about to win. Like
Dude,
it looked like you were catching those guys.
So
it was insane.
So I was pretty like I didn't remember much of the race, but someone was like, yeah, like I thought you were going to win. I'm like, really? Like in my mind, it was such a blur. Like I thought the winners could have been like 12:58. Like I didn't know how close they really were. But yeah, I saw that like when I rewatched the race and saw like my burst of speed with 150 to go, I was like, man, if I would have kept that up, like I would have won the race.
It was like we thought that's what's going to happen.
A 20 or 30 meter stretch
Yeah.
where you were flying.
I was cool. I was warming up and getting ready like drills and strides before my race, and I was seeing it on the TV. And I had to stop my warm up because I was like, holy shit, Joe's gonna win this race, because your acceleration just around the bend, like you were just passing people really easily. I was like, damn. But like that's like one thing that you've take experience from, is you being able to like, oh, I can close, I can back myself in that type of situation.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely like looking back at that race, just seeing like I was going fast enough. I just could have like held it to like for sure be second and maybe take a stab at first. So like it's like again, that experience is just so important to like. You can do hard workouts, but to actually like go in a race and like do some things that you've never done before like that, it gives you a lot of confidence.
Definitely does, yeah.
Yeah, it was sweet to see that. And I think, in terms of, as you said, your progression to world champs, like that's just ticking all the boxes. Like momentum definitely going in the right direction. And it is pretty cool. You can say, oh, well, I guess you just scratched from US champs, but you do have the 2 fastest 5K times in the US, which is no small feat. I mean, there's a lot of amazing runners out there. Do you want to tell? I'm sure everyone wants to know like why you scratched from the 5K.
Yeah, well, like for one, I was saying when I traveled to Europe, it took me a long time to recover. On the same way, flying back, like the first few days certainly have not felt great. Like running and just like getting my body back. Not as bad as traveling to Switzerland. I'm definitely learning like how to get recovered. But I do think I could be ready to go for Sunday, but then you race Sunday, then it's another like 5 to 7 days where you have to recover. Like I think that I'm more interested in like giving myself the best shot to do well in one event than like trying to run 2 events at Worlds just because you can. Like Dathan said it best. He's like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I think the US is so deep that like why would I like give this just heroic effort to try and make the 5K team to take a spot from someone who maybe they're just going to do the 5K, who might do better. Like, I don't know if I could come back after a really hard 10K and run 2 5Ks and try and give myself a shot to medal. Like, so I versus doing 2 races mediocre, like I'd rather just put everything on one race. I mean, that's kind of how Dathan's approach has always been to like, doubling at the world champs. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's very rare that someone does it really well other than like the medal contenders.
That's exactly what I think. It's like a great mindset, and that's kind of what we've been talking about, where it's like, obviously you would love to be a superstar and when you're doing the 10K 5K double, but you kind of have to work up to that. So obviously that's the dream for all of us, is to do those events, but for now you really want to just give yourself the best chance to have the most success, and that's doing one event and focusing on and putting everything into it.
Well, I think an interesting another thing about that is not saying I would be like a shoo-in to make the 5K team. It's an incredibly hard team to make, but say I did make it and I knocked someone off the team. Like I look at when Paul Chelimo got a silver medal, I think in Rio, he finished 3rd at the Olympic trials. He out-leaned Eric Jenkins for 4th. Like he barely made that team, and then he goes and gets silver at the Olympics. It's like, what if I put in this heroic effort to make the team, and then I knock someone off who might be like getting a medal because I won't be totally fresh. Now I could be fresh at the championships, but in Eugene, I'll be coming a few days off of a 10K. And so I think not just for myself, but also as like USATF, I think that this is the best thing for us to do well in the distance events across the board. I mean, Ethiopia, for instance, none of their top athletes, at least men, I think, are doubling. Like Aragawi's running one event.
Yeah.
Like, and you think Aragawi is probably one of the best runners in both events. Why is he just doing one? I'm sure like Ethiopia just wants him to be totally dialed in on one event to do the best he can.
I almost think track and field should go like one step further and make it more difficult to double. I think they should just compress worlds into like less days and make each day a bit more exciting, a few more events, instead of dragging out 10 days, giving people the opportunity to do two. Like if someone goes out and medals in one of those, like why does he not need a double? No one's going to be like, oh, he only medaled in one event. Like, what? No. Yeah. He only medaled in the 5K.
Unless you're like, you know,
no one thinks that.
Like
it's going to be amazing no matter what.
I mean, like, who's doubled in the 5K and 10K over the last couple of Olympics? Like, it's very rare that someone...
Yeah, just like Mo Farah.
Yeah, like Mo Farah. I mean, like...
Probably Bukele and shit.
Yeah, but it's just
they did used to do it all the time.
But it's like, if you could do one well, you know, I think that's just so much more important than doing two...
Yeah.
Or doing one well and then coming back just because you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective, I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, George, because I think if you're that good to win a gold in both, like, I think winning, I don't think anyone says, like, you only won one gold, but I think it's just so amazing if someone wins two golds. So.
It's so rare that someone can win two golds, you know?
Like, is Jakob doubling?
I think he's just doing the 15.
Just the 15?
I don't think he has the 5K standard. I think
he does have the 5K.
Well, he just
he ran it before.
No, he just got it.
He ran it sound.
Oh right, yeah.
He wants to run. From when I talked to him about it, he wants to be able to run the 15, definitely 1500 world champs. Europeans though.
For the Europeans, he said he
wanted to run. Like he was even considering running the 800.
After his big 147 performance.
He joking. Well, I think he would do it, but he jokingly said that he wants to run the 800, 1500, steeple, 5K, 10K.
Europeans?
And the
Europeans.
Dude, I do like that they like go hard for Europeans.
It is
like it's
very serious. It
makes me jealous as like an American athlete that we don't have that like secondary championship that's on the same level as like Commonwealth or Europeans.
Yeah, they're pretty cool events.
It's a very cool thing, Europeans, and it's in Munich this year, and I think for Jakob, he's 100% doing the 1500. I don't know if he's doubling doing the 5K.
I'm sure he will because he's already a double gold in both of them at European. Oh, are you talking about world champs?
I'm talking about world champs.
Oh, yeah.
Europeans, he's probably doing both, yeah.
I don't really know what the schedule is, but see, I could see from World Athletics' perspective why they would want to create a schedule that allows him to double.
Because it's more exciting.
I mean? He sells tickets.
He sells tickets, yeah.
That's true.
It is kind of, it is, if you can make it happen, it 100%. Is cool. Or like, say if they could make a schedule where I think Mo can do the 800, 400 double.
Yeah.
That would be cool if they could do that.
It just gets more seats and butts. Gets more seats and butts.
More seats and butts.
Seats on butts?
No, more seats and butts.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what they want to do. They want to sell tickets and get people excited about stuff like that. That's what's going to do. Like Jakob.
You got to create stars, you know? That's what it's
Jakob's
about.
Jakob's going to be going double. I think Mo goes double. You know,
it was like Stefan Hassan last year going for all the goals.
Triple.
It was like that was cool.
Hasn't raced since.
He's probably broken from that.
Yeah, probably like messed her up a little bit, but like.
But it's worth it.
But the thing was, like, when she was trying to get all the goals, it was like you didn't care about the one race. Like, you just cared about that she still had the chance to do like the trifecta.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you kind of overlooked that. Oh, she just won gold, or she just is she gonna get the next one now? She looked a little tired or something.
Yeah, that was crazy. But I was gonna move on to your race, Ollie, but I feel like we talked about Joe's whole season. We should probably talk about the 10K now.
Yeah, definitely.
We did want to have Joe on right after that, but then just with scheduling, it was too hard. But I mean, it was pretty cool this year that the 10K was its own thing. So it made, all the hype about it. It was all just about the 10K the night before Prefontaine. And it was amazing. Obviously, it is the best, like, U.S. 10K field ever. Like, that's not even a question. Like, you have Grant Fisher running
American record,
and then you know that all his Bauman teammates are... They haven't run sub 27, but they probably could. Yeah. It's just the standard is so high. The amount of people with the standard is probably... I don't know if it's more than ever before, but the standard is way harder than it's ever been as well. So that was a crazy race. And what was very cool about you, Joe, is you've definitely, as you were even talking about before, like you've really made the 10K like your event. You haven't, that's everything about the year was pretty much going towards competing at world champs in the 10K. And so a big part of that is making sure that you can go to the US 10K champs and crush it. And last time we had you on, that was right after you had suffered an injury at the end of December, start of January, and you were working back into things. And so it meant that you couldn't race indoors. You couldn't race nearly as much as you thought you were going to race earlier than you at one point. But it didn't, obviously in the end, it didn't matter. Your build-up was still exactly what it needed to be. So it was very cool to just witness like the whole lead up. Because obviously last year I was hearing about the crazy stuff you were doing in training and all that, and this year I got to witness it. And I know like a lot of people do crazy stuff in training, but the way that Joe is able to get dialed in for, there's certain workouts, you know, which are like, this is my big one before the 10K, and the way that you get dialed in for them and crush them was so impressive. So I think we all knew that you were gonna, because obviously last year you went to the trials and you crushed it, and we knew that you were even better this year. But still, to go and compete against a literal 26:33 runner in Grant is, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. And then you got the dub, so it was very cool to see. I mean, for you, what was the mindset going into it, and then throughout the race, like how did that kind of play out to the point where with 100 meters to go, or maybe even 50 meters to go, you could just tell like you're like, shit, I'm about to win this thing?
Yeah, so like even back before the race, like we heard that the 10K was going to be moved up a month to the pre-classic, which I was pretty excited about because I knew it would just put like an extra emphasis on that race because it was the only US championship of that weekend during the pre-classic, which already has a lot of emphasis on it. So the only thing is that took a month away from like preparing for the race, coming off an injury. So it certainly made things a little more stressful, like having to get in shape. But Dathan navigated it super well, and it never felt like we were like cramming in fitness. It felt very like natural still. But yeah, then like going into the race, I'd just come off running 13:04 at Sound, and so I knew I was really fit and workouts had been going better than the year prior. But you know, the field was also a lot better. More people had the standard. Grant had run the American record. Woody had just paced him for like much of that race, looking very good. And I knew that it was going to take a lot better race than a year ago to win. Like it wasn't going to be closing 54 and like we win by 5, or like I'm clear of anyone else by 5 seconds. I knew it was going to be much closer. And so going in, I just expected that. And I just kind of, like I did in Oslo, like I've done in a lot of races, like just wanted to be very engaged with the front of the race the whole time. I mean, 10K is a long distance to just be like having like a race plan or anything. So I think for me, as long as I stay engaged with the front of the race and what's going on, like I'm very like confident in that. There's a lot of shoving in the race. It was a pretty slow race, so there was just like tons of jockeying for position, but I always just like try to let that not affect me as much as I can. I'm a bigger runner, and so I think like when I get pushed around, like it doesn't affect me as much. But yeah, then throughout the race, it was just like 9K of very tactical, like running, some people making moves, just kind of like not giving too much thought to the moves being made, but also at the same time, like respecting it enough to like make sure they don't get too far ahead. But then with like a K to go, I think 900 to go, Dathan yelled at me, like, go to the front, because I think I was in kind of the outside, just kind of waiting for the race to move a little bit. Like we were running really slow. And so I moved to the front. I didn't really think about it. I didn't really plan to move to the front that early. But I just went to the front. I didn't pick it up a ton, but I think my second to last lap might have still been like a 61, which it didn't feel that fast. Like I felt like I was getting clipped at the heels quite a bit. And I think people were really expecting me to like drop the hammer and try and like have this really long drawn out kick, which I just didn't really want to do. I don't think that's like what I needed to do to win the race. So I just kind of like kept running hard, like hard enough to not get my heels clipped, but not hard enough to like really like use those last few gears that I had. And I just kept like waiting for someone to pull up on my shoulder. So with like 400 to go, I was really expecting like a big move to be made, because I knew like Sean was still there. I knew Grant was still there. I knew like Shadrach and Emmanuel were still there, and they all have like amazing closes and they've run really fast this year. So I knew they were like, the pace we were running wasn't like tiring them at all. But they didn't go around me. And then with 300 to go, I was really expecting like a big move down the backstretch, just because I feel like you see that a lot. It's a common place. You don't have to swing wide on the bend. And again, no one went around me. Yeah, so it wasn't until like 200 to go that I really thought that I could like win the race. Up until then, I was just like trying to make sure I was in that top 3 spot. But I looked up at the big screen and saw some people like fading off a little bit, and seeing that, yeah, like I could just run for home then. And so with 200 to go, I figured like Grant's a very smart racer. He probably wouldn't like pull around my shoulder on the turn. So I just tried to like maintain a good pace, but like definitely keep a gear for that final straight, because I knew that's when he would want to make his move. And I was expecting that like all along, like for someone to pull up on my shoulder. I wasn't like delusional in the sense of like, oh, I'm just running away from everyone right now. So I, down the home stretch, I just was like waiting for him to pull up on my shoulder. And once he did, I knew like I just had to match his speed and then have one last final burst. And fortunately it like worked out exactly how I thought it would in my head. And I ended up, obviously winning the race and winning my first US title and qualifying for Eugene. And so all around is just like an incredible performance. I mean, the time was really slow or whatever, but like it meant a lot to win that like US title. And also I'd never beaten Grant in my whole life. And so it's a pretty good race to like do that, like winning a US championship.
Really good race.
But yeah, like it was just like really calculated, like such a tactical race that it was just like mind games the whole time, like thinking like, how can I win this race? Because as far as like pure fitness, like no one was being tested. It was really just like tactics and using the tools you have to win the race. And I think I was able to do that very well. And I think looking back, Grant would obviously do things a bit differently to use his, his strengths to win that race. I don't know like what he would do, but so it's kind of like in those races are kind of fun. Like you look back and there's multiple people who could have won that race if they used their strengths differently, just because it wasn't like a pure fitness race.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just put this on the table right now. Grant, US titles, 0. Joe Klecker, 1.
Wait, he didn't win either the
He's
10K
he's
or the
never
5K?
won a US title.
Did
He's
Woody
never won
win
one.
both of them?
No,
No,
Woody and
Chalimo.
Paul.
Oh, I
Chalimo.
forgot about Chalimo.
So that's the thing, like, I think people could never underestimate how hard it is to win a US title. The
100%.
current American record holder in the 10K has not won a US title.
Dathan never won a US title on the track.
Dathan never won a US title on the track. It's just crazy. And like I was talking to Dathan because when we were there, we were just going nuts. It was crazy. It was like so exciting. Particularly after Alicia's race, where like she got sat on by the entire race and they got outkicked the last 100 by Carissa. I was kind of like, well, that sucked. We wanted Alicia to win. But seeing Joe do that to Grant, it was fantastic. And I love Grant, but it's just like, it was just good for a teammate to do that and like win a race like that. It was just so special. And I did it. I think I was talking to Dathan and Ray, like the last time a non-Nike athlete won that race must be like at least 20 years.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I can't think of.
I mean, Galen won it for like probably 10 years in a row.
He got the massive.
Who
And then Chalimo.
I know, like Lopez has probably won one, or
Lopez,
Lenny maybe.
Woody.
Woody.
I can't think of a
Definitely, I can't
non-Nike
think of
athlete other than
non-Nike.
you. Like that's
Right.
so big for On. Like just massive to be able to achieve something like that. So it was pretty exciting to be a part of and like celebrate it while we're there.
In Nike's own backyard.
In Nike's own
Yeah.
backyard,
with,
baby.
with Phil Knight in attendance.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
I wonder how Phil Knight thought about that.
Confirmed.
I wonder how. Yeah. How
Oh, didn't your dad talk to him in the bar afterwards?
Yeah.
Tell us about that story.
Oh yeah, my dad was like moseying about the finish line.
Celebrating.
Probably having a few beers. He said like some people were buying him beers during the race and stuff, so that seemed like he was having a good time. But he like saw one of his like old people he knew from Nike back in the day, and like asked him like, hey, like could I just like say like a word to Phil? And he just went in like the Nike box and like talked to Phil for a little bit, like after my race, like after I just won, so it was pretty sweet.
Wait, what did he say to him?
I think I don't know what he said, but like he maybe like back in the day, my mom, I think she was sponsored by Nike for a bit, and like so definitely have like some Nike roots, I guess, within my family, and so just like connecting with old people in the brand,
Yeah.
I guess. But
It would
yeah,
have been funny if that your dad goes, yeah, can I just have a word with Phil Knight? And then the next day you just get like $1 million contract offer from Nike. That's kind of how I'm expecting.
Barney's the best agent of them all.
Yeah.
yeah.
Barney's the best agent of them all.
Klecker Sports.
Klecker
Yeah.
Sports. That'd be pretty good, honestly.
That'd be really cool. But yeah, it was,
It was so cool.
for you guys, I can't even imagine how it was. I know on the TV when Grant went just past you for a little bit, and then you started catching back up. It's like, holy shit. he's
You looked
about to
over
win
too.
this
I
thing.
love the look.
The look
like
over.
the look to the right, and then
Yeah, in that moment, I just expected him to make like a more definitive move, like he went by me, but like you could tell he used everything he had like just to get in front of me, and I don't think he expected like maybe to be able to fight back.
He didn't expect a retaliation, that's for sure.
Yeah,
yeah, I think the thing is like he's not historically known for, like he's been beaten in the last 100.
yeah.
Quite often.
Morgan, how did you always used to
Yeah.
beat him?
Morgan would always beat him in the last 100. Yared would get him in the last 50. Woody would get him at the end.
Yeah.
Joe now. Like, I mean, he's fit as
yeah.
hell, but
The thing that was crazy, because I was thinking about, like, wait, so how does Grant win races? And then I was thinking about what he was able to do in those more time trial races. Was he was able to run, like, his last mile, his last 2K in those races was absolutely ridiculous. You know, like,
it's like a big wind up.
He would have these massive wind, and he obviously can run a quick 1500. He can obviously can close super fast, but yeah, there's definitely something to that where he is. If you're on his shoulder in the last 100, he's definitely beatable.
Yeah, it's even like when Woody beat him last year at the Olympic trials, it's just like you could just see like Woody's foot speed was like ridiculous, you know, and like not that like Grant has great foot speed too, but it's like, again, it's like using your tools that you have to win the race, and obviously Woody did that. Like last year, his foot speed was just crazy.
Yeah, that's why I definitely thought Grant was going to go to the front a lot. I thought he was going to go to the front at some point. I thought it was going to be earlier than even you ended up going to the front.
Yeah, like I've always told people, like, this race, like, obviously you're saying Grant's the only one who's broken 27 minutes, but I think that to make that team, you have to be a sub 27 caliber runner, if not better. And so just because like the 10K you race it so few times, you don't always get that opportunity to go out there and like do what Grant did and like run that like a time trial and put on like that best performance. You're often just running it at like the championships, and so you don't always get to put that fast time out there. But like, yeah, Grant was certainly the class of the field with the American record, but I don't think a lot of those Americans are like too far behind that. Like you saw Woody running with him in that American record, leading it for 8K or whatever until he dropped out, doing his pacing. So I think that like, yeah, Grant has the 26:33 PR, but I think there's a lot of Americans who are like maybe close to that caliber.
Yeah, and I think you look at the team that's going to be competing in Eugene of you, Grant, and Sean. That's probably the best 10K team the U.S. has ever sent to a global championship, I'm going to imagine.
Certainly if you look at PRs in the 10K and 5K.
Yeah,
not even close.
And it's pretty cool that you guys are all, I would say, relatively young, especially for 10K guys. You know, like you can be a really good 10K runner for a long time if you do it right. So it's going to be very exciting because you all guys all do have the tools to compete at World Champs 10K. So that's going to be absolutely sick. And as we've said throughout the show, that's kind of what everything's been leading up to for you this year, and also for the Bowmen. We know how they operate. They operate to peak at World Champs as well. That's how they are. So you can assume that they're going to get that right and be really ready to go. So that's just going to be sick. So yeah, it was good to have you on so you could talk about that stuff, because we wanted to have you on right after it, but just the scheduling didn't work. But that's something that we definitely don't want to. I don't think you can understate how amazing that is, you know, to go out there and win the US 10K. So that was very cool. But yeah, so everything's looking pretty damn good in KLECKER world for King KLECKER. But moving on to Mr. Keith McSqueezy. Kind of crazy that it's taken us this long in the episode to talk about the fact that Ollie just ran 3:47 in the mile, but here we are finally
in the squeeze-a-thon.
There's just so much good shit going on, bro.
So much good
exciting.
Shit. It was to watch that race was sweet, because I don't think there's anyone else in the sport that so confidently says what they're gonna go and try and do, and then they go and do it. Like, you were obviously, that race played out as you expected it to go.
Yeah.
It was, it was nice. It was good conditions.
Yeah.
In their backyard, and Jakob isn't afraid to sit on the pace. Like, when he says I'm gonna go for the European record, he's gonna go for it. He's not gonna like diddle daddle. Like, he's gonna go, and he's gonna run you guys ran pretty even splits, huh?
Our last lap was the slowest.
Was it actually?
Mm-hmm.
The 1500s turned into the 800.
You
It's
got
like a regression. It was great. Ollie loves a regression, right?
Yeah. So I've been training.
Does them all fall.
So I've been training, baby. That's why you see me dying in every workout, because I'm training for that.
But yeah,
training for the race.
You were clearly so locked in. You were on Jakob's shoulder within, I don't know how long, but pretty quickly.
Straight away, I think.
Straight away.
Oh no, I mean, I said this in the last pod, and I probably shouldn't keep telling people what I'm gonna do in races, but yeah, my plan was to get on Jakob straight away, and I just got a really good start.
How hard did you have to sprint off the line?
Honestly, I felt pretty good.
I think Ollie's used to it, because he just always has a really good start.
Always gets off the line, yeah.
I think I get off line pretty solid, and I felt pretty relaxed, and I got right behind the paces, and then I left that little gap, and Jakob goes, "Thank you very much." Took it in.
I think too that people were gonna respect that space, because they knew you were gonna
Yeah,
if anyone was gonna go up right on Jakob in that race, like, I mean, maybe Whiteman.
It was Whiteman or me, because
Yeah.
I did talk to Whiteman before, and Whiteman ran 3:32 in Rabat. He's looking fantastic right now, heading into British Champs. Really lovely guy. He was hanging out with Joe and I and Alicia and the team a bit in Oslo. He was kind of saying like, yeah, he's going to go for it. Like when you know that that's the situation the race is going to be. Like usually with championship racing or like with Joe's 5K or Alicia's 5K or Geordie's 5K, sometimes you don't know what's actually going to happen. Like people say things, but with it being in Norway, all the talk about him running the European record and the pacing to having 2 paces, you just knew that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, who are the top guys in that race? It was obviously Jakob, you, Jake,
Mokatir,
but he was sick and dropped out.
Fontes was in there, Matt Ramsden
Neil
was in
Gurley
there,
in there?
Charles,
Yeah,
Cool.
Neil Gorley. But like I think that
Charles.
like even looking from like Jake's perspective, like he probably was gonna let you get that position because if he was gonna beat you, he has such a great last 200.
very good,
Like
144,
more of an
800
800 background. So
Yeah.
like he knows you're gonna stay on the pace. So
Yeah.
like
There's no better pacemaker than Jakob Ingebrigtsen and
Seriously.
Ollie
and
Hall.
Ollie Hoare. Yeah, that's
like,
pretty much. Yeah, and I'm sure Jake and Ingy listened to the pod, so they knew exactly what Keith McSqueeze was going to do.
Exactly. Maybe this is actually we have an advantage on here because you actually saved that spot on the race by talking about it beforehand.
yeah.
Maybe.
You reserved it.
Yeah, you reserved
Yeah.
that spot on the
That's my
line.
spot. Just above Jakob's crack. It just says reserved for Ollie Hawk. There's a spot right there. But yeah, the race went out. I mean, I was pretty nervous. This is probably the most nervous I've been in this year.
really?
Because I think this race was, I mean, I've had a really good year this year, but this race I felt like was going to be a defining moment of like, am I in contention to be in the conversation of medals? Like, can I actually run with this guy? Like, because he is the definitive mark of the best in the world in this event. Like, can I run with him? Like, is it possible? Like, I've run in races where, you know, I was able to close a little hard, get a second at pre, and Birmingham was a third. Like, but I hadn't really shown that kind of step yet. I think it was a big step for me this race. So I was extremely nervous, and going into it, like I was finally wearing the on spikes. They were a little bit too big on one foot. I think one foot's like really small and
You have different size feet.
I think so. They just didn't fit that well, and I was trying different socks and stuff, and Joe was giving me some advice on like what to wear, but I just no socked it, and it felt pretty good in the race.
No, sucked it. Raw dogged it.
Raw dogged it in the race, which I raw dogged it with the other shoes, other spikes. So, but yeah, I got out pretty well. 2 paces were there. I just made sure I got the paces, and then I just like let a little gap, Jakob in, and got onto him. And I think my mum and dad were watching. They said that's the most focused I've ever looked in a race, because I was just like making sure he didn't get an inch, and to stay relaxed as possible. I will never forget running around the bend and just hearing the crowd going, Jakob, Jakob, Jakob. It was nuts. It was just crazy. But yeah, we're going around, and I think I felt amazing. I think on the 3rd lap, I actually had the thought and the euphoria of like, I can do it. I can beat this guy. I can beat him in his home turf. And then it got to the back straight of the last lap, and he just blew my doors off. Like, he just was so much stronger than I was 200 to go. But I was able to hold my form and stay as relaxed as I could. And I actually realized that he only got a second on me, really, which to me was like a huge bonus, because I think the way I ran that was that I just didn't have the last 200, but I still held on very well for the time that I ran. But yeah, it's just, I tried to squeeze him. It was 300 to go, and the problem is my toothpaste squeeze was out, and his was still had a little bit left. So
Got out squeezed.
I got out squeezed by Ingy, and you know what? He ran that race amazing, and he deserves that win, because I tried everything I could. I just couldn't get him, but I knew the momentum for me moving forward from that race is so big that going into World Champs, I do have a lot of confidence that if a situation comes out, whatever the type of race it is, I can get onto him and I can run with him and compete against him a lot more than I thought I could before Oslo, like at pre.
Yeah.
And then you never know what can happen on a different day.
You never
Is
know
that
what
going to
can
be your new
happen.
saying? Instead of outsclassing someone, you're going to outsqueeze
Outsqueeze
them?
them. Just outsqueeze them.
They're outsqueezed.
They're outsqueezed, mate.
I mean, I feel like that's what we got to talk about. Like, how is Jakob gonna be beaten?
Well, me and Whiteman had that
this
chat.
year, you know,
Me and Whiteman had that chat.
it took COVID indoors to beat him.
Yeah.
I don't think he was that symptomatic, though, to be honest. I was with him in the call room. He seemed okay. He didn't seem. I mean, obviously you're not going to be 100%, but that race was also insane. Because that track was not that quick. That was a crazy race. But me and Wyman were cooling down and we're chatting about it with Joe, and I think just getting Kipsang in there, running a 54 middle lap, like that could break.
I think
break Jakob.
I think it's more variable. Like this race was you and Jakob, and like even like Whiteman, he was behind you, and like
he was there for
he
pretty much the
faded
whole
a little
race.
bit, but like you put in more variables into the race, and like anything can happen. You know what I mean? Like you put in like Kipsang, and he throws in like a crazy lap. Like that's like Jakob was expecting exactly what happened at Bislett.
He got exactly what he like wanted to get out of the race.
Yeah, there's not going to be pacing lights in Eugene.
Yeah. And I think leading into Worlds because of the rounds, and he even said this to us when we were doing our pre-meet. He's like, you never know what's going to happen in the rounds. So like for him, even leading to Europeans, like he doesn't know how he's going to feel after the 1500 or the 5K or whatever. But I think those races, particularly 1500 now, Geordie already mentioned, like it's raced so much differently. But could it still be raced like that through every round? I don't think so.
Yeah, it depends. The Olympics was weird last year because you knew that there were certain people who wanted it to be quick the whole time, like Stewie McSwain and also just Chariot. Like the way that they were racing at that time, you knew that they were going to make it quick from the start. But now everyone knows that if those guys make it quick, like Jakob is just going to be able to match that, and then he's going to be able to outsqueeze whoever it is.
So it's like they look at it more like not just like a one race final. They look at it like a boxing match, like taking it out of someone every round.
Exactly.
Like and 3 rounds to like.
He's definitely very strong to be able to do that because like for someone like Wyman, he even said as the 8:15 guy, he relies on like that close, and if you weed someone out of that, they're going to be less dangerous coming into the finals if you're running like a 3:33 to make the final.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, but Whiteman's certainly like worked on his strength.
I mean,
what do you run for 3K indoors?
3K 7:37,
I think.
Yeah, like
no, he knows
it's no joke.
He knows the game is changing, but the guy's so good, like 144 800 guy. So he's not going to lose his best tool in the kit, but he is working on the strength, and it's going to be really interesting to see how, particularly with the UK champs coming up with the USA's as well. That 1500 men's is going to be a really good race because one really good guy is going to miss out. You got Gooley, Kerr, Whiteman, and Hayward. All good guys that are good enough to make any other team.
Yeah,
and the final,
final, the world champs.
All 4 of them have been in the final.
They all have.
All Olympics. Yeah. So it's going to be a crazy race, and that's going to be interesting to see how that goes down. But Whiteman was right there. He ran 350. He just died a bit at the end, and it was a pretty crazy race. I mean, Jakob's time is 6th all-time mile ever, and he was just off Steve Cram's record. Like, if you look at the list of top 10 milers ever in the world, that list is insane. Like, to be in that company, Jakob is definitely putting himself in that.
It's crazy to me that was only 6th all time. Like, just watching that, I'm like, how are there people who are running faster than
but
this?
It was also, I think, the fastest time in like 20 years.
Yeah,
21 years.
2001
so
was the last
that
time.
puts a lot of perspective on how freaking doped up they were back in the day. But also, how that makes it seem even more amazing. I think
it's incredible, and he's gonna he's riding that wave now that like he's gonna be extremely hard to beat. So he's gonna have all the targets on his back, but he's been so used to it now that I think he's gonna thrive in Eugene. And anything can happen, but he's definitely looking like the clear favorite in the 15.
Definitely looking like the favorite, but I certainly think he's gonna be beatable because he doesn't win races in. Well, I guess in the Olympics he won in a kick down at the end, but still, that was a fast race. You know he's going to make a move at some point, but it's probably not going to be from the very start of the race. And I think people like yourself are now feeling confident enough that whenever he makes a move, you're going to stick on his shoulder, and he's going to be the one using all the energy to make that move. So then if you can stay there until 100 to go, anything can happen.
Mental energy, too.
Yeah.
It's a mental game.
It's a mental game, mental peak. And, like, particularly looking at that race, it was very European. Australian, there was no Africans in it, and Americans. So you put the Americans and the Africans in those type of races.
That's true.
That's going to create different environment as well. Cooper and Cole, notorious with the kicks, Teardrop and Hulk Hocker.
Cole's got a great kick.
Cooper's got a pretty good kick too.
Yeah.
And the Chariot's a world champion for a reason. He knows how to turn up. So I think it's going to be a great event, and I'm excited that race has given me confidence to be able to race with all of them. So.
Yeah.
What was crazy was hearing. Well, it was very cool having Steve Cram commentating.
Yeah, that was sick.
The race that Jakob was trying to break his record, but hearing the difference in the way that he ran that record was unbelievable. Like you and Jakob split 2:48 at the bell, and then ran like I guess at 58, and maybe you ran a 59 or something. He split 2:53. So he was like over 5 seconds behind where Jakob was, and ran 3:46.
How epic of a race would that have been if someone did like
Yeah.
like,
He just comes
like
in
you,
that far
mash someone needs to mash that video together.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, and put like
they're
a
both
little
in Oslo,
graphic.
weren't they?
Yeah, same track.
Yeah, same track.
Like I bet someone like maybe Gorley or Charles who ran 3:52, they might have split
yeah,
2:53 back there, and
That'd be
like could have won that
epic.
race with the same last
Epic.
lap.
That'd be so cool to see.
Like that's crazy
I mean,
to think.
Cram even talked about it. He wasn't even going for any record. He just wanted to beat Seb. He just wanted to beat Seb Coe. He didn't care about any record, and he closed down as hard as he could because he thought that was the way to beat Seb, and he just broke the European record. So, it puts into perspective how different it is now. But also, do you know if that did happen to Jakob because of him being so close to Cram, if you had that kind of rematch somehow, would Jakob be able to push even further to beat Cram? It would be interesting because I don't know, like Cram closing that hard, do you reckon that's going to be just not existent anymore? Like, do you reckon anybody could do that in that race in Oslo if you had a Steve Cram like that in that race against Jakob?
if it was a race, yeah, but like I feel like with today's
But
day
would
and
Cram
age,
go with the pace, or would he wait
Well, no,
back?
it'd be
But,
completely different.
it's just
Yeah.
such a different day and age where like
Yeah.
people just like get after these times. Like you were saying, like he just wanted to beat Seb Coe.
Yeah, he didn't care
And
about
so
the
like
time,
it'd be
did
like
he?
if he just wanted to beat you or something and like didn't have pace lights, didn't have like even really maybe even a pacer, like it was just like doing what he had to do to win.
Yeah.
So like I just think it's hard to recreate some of those
It is.
epic races because the times change, like with just people's approach to racing. I mean, like you've seen that shift in the 1500, like you were saying, how it's turned into more the 800.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
but to recap the magnitude of that performance for Ollie, 3:47, that was the 13th fastest all time. So right among like these ridiculous names. It was the Oceania record. Take that. I guess was it Craig Mottram?
Stewie.
Shoeies.
Stewie. Did he break it last year?
He broke it last year at Oslo. He sent me a nice
I
message too.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wait,
No,
so
it's
what was the record before that?
3:48.5.
Okay,
So,
So-
you beat it by almost
I
a
beat
full
by
second.
second. Yeah.
that is ridiculous.
And like I think Stewie was in amazing shape then too, so definitely a good confidence booster going into Worlds.
Mhm.
Sure.
So once again, another crazy freaking outing for the team, going to Europe and getting all these big races in. It's like it's crazy to just be at home and see it happen.
It's definitely crazy because like I mean our team seems pretty desirable. I think people would want to join our team.
Oh, really? You
Good
think so?
transition. Good transition.
Wow, what a
into-
transition.
Yeah, actually, you know what? After watching Ollie run these races recently, I'm starting to realize that the list of people that will beat Ollie Hoare in 2022 is very, very slim. I feel good to be on that list. Thanks, bro.
Oh,
Fuck you, bitch.
yeah.
It's gonna be a very
George.
short list.
Classic George,
You
but
should get a pay bonus for that.
Probably should, eh?
yeah, that was
Talk to my guy.
Talk to you guys.
get my agent.
I'll
on
get
it.
the tips in.
Yeah.
But so there was just today some big announcements. On just signed 4 new people, and 2 of them are signed to the OAC, and we're very excited because these guys came on our visit, and I don't think any of us expected to get both of them because these are 2 of the best milers to come through the NCAA probably ever, definitely in recent memory. It's Jared Negus and Mario Garcia. What's his last name? Romo. So it's just like crazy, man. I think having all these 1,500 guys training together, it's gonna be wild. We're so happy for them to come and join. I don't think Mario is gonna be out here until the fall. Jared, we're not sure. Perhaps he'll be here a little bit before that. He's about to go race USA's, obviously, and I mean he just ran 3:34 at Portland, won a pretty big race, so he should be ready to go. So yeah, I think it's crazy how things are moving so quickly. There's so much success, and then you get these amazing recruits joining. It's pretty awesome. The momentum is there, but we definitely wanted to talk a bit with these boys about the early days of OAC because I think if you watch the podcast, we're really happy because this is a really good outlet to show you in general the underbelly of how a lot of this stuff works and how things operate. And the OAC this is year 2, I guess.
But right about 2
Right,
exactly.
2 years,
Right?
pretty much.
Yeah,
We
right.
pretty much announced in July 2 years ago,
Mhm.
around the 4th.
So, yeah, it's been known to be a new team, very young team, but now definitely those changes are happening when it's, you have these people that are super established, and then we got these new amazing classes or whatever you want to call it, people coming in. Like, things are definitely changing, but yeah, it definitely wasn't always glamorous not that we're living super glamorous lives now. Like, there's definitely still some stuff, but yeah, we wanted to talk about some of the best OAC early day stories because I think these guys definitely have some good ones. Just though it's crazy to see a team get brought together like this because I think normally when a team starts, for example, Jerry Schumacher going to Nike, he brought a bunch of guys. He brought maybe 5 guys that he was already coaching from Wisconsin, like Simon Byer, Solinsky, Tegenkamp. This team was literally like starting from
scratch.
Like no one had been coached. I guess some of the girls had been coached by Ritz before, but none of the guys had been coached by Ritz. It was let's move to Boulder and make a pro team, and there wasn't. I mean, there are obviously a lot of pro teams in Boulder, but none quite like this. So, yeah, what were those early day vibes for you guys? You guys have some good stories, I know.
Yeah, well, it's crazy just thinking that pretty quickly after, like within 2 years, now there are more new people on the team than there are original members.
It's true.
Which is like the growth has been crazy, and yeah, I mean, I'll let Klecker start this one off as he was first.
My first experience with Ritz was like he started coaching me remotely because he hadn't moved out here yet, and like at that point I had no idea when he was going to move out here because like he had a very like he talks about it like it was a mansion in Michigan that he had to sell, and he seemed to really like Michigan, and his wife really likes Michigan, and so like I was like, wow, like it doesn't sound like he's going to be out here for a while, but he's like, hey, I'm going to fly out like this weekend just to like be there for your long run. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, like just flying out here for my long run. And he rode 20 miles with me on gravel on my fixed gear bike. And like he said that he's like, yeah, I probably won't ever be able to have kids again after that, even though he doesn't probably want more kids, so maybe a good thing.
Yeah.
But that was like pretty funny. And then he was visiting some houses that weekend. He was telling me, he's like, yeah, every house is just terrible, like we can't find anything. And I was just like pretty bummed because I was like, wow, like just gonna be kind of out here alone, you know. And at that point Ollie hadn't signed, Jordy hadn't signed, Carlos hadn't signed, so I was like, wow, like it's great that I'm like got this pro contract now, but like my coach doesn't seem like he's gonna move out here so far, like no one's committed to signing. But then like he went and visited a house that day, and he was like he's like, yeah, it was like a pretty good house today, like we liked it a lot in Niwot. And I was like, oh, that's good. And then like that Wednesday he's like, yeah, like our house is on the market, we put an offer on the house in Niwot, and like he moved out like shortly after. Like it was like the quickest thing ever, like selling a house and moving out here, which just like really showed his dedication to that team early on. But like, yeah, my first memory was him just biking that like 20 miles on a fixed gear, like gravel road. I was just like, wow, this is insane.
That's classic Ritz.
Yeah.
He would do anything for his athletes. But the early days, you guys are talking about lifting in Ritz's gym?
Well, yeah, his garage actually.
His garage.
It was.
Sorry?
I mean, well, so me, Carlos, and Jordy signed after Joe, and like looking at it from our perspective, particularly with the NCAA being the situation with COVID, like Owen was taking a huge. We were all taking a huge risk. It was a risky thing to do. It's during COVID. We didn't know, like the future was kind of ambiguous, and you're signing the best guys at NCAA, like all of them. Like really, like you had Carlos, George, myself, and Joe were like the names in the NCAA at that point that were going to get contracts, and On got all of them. And then we also signed Monson. So like really, they just grabbed this whole market and then just put this with this new coach in a new place to see if it's going to work. And I didn't know what this was going to be like, but then learning from Joe, and then obviously learning from like being able to do lifts in his garage, like how dedicated he was to like getting things done, whether it was like temporary, like he knew that it was going to get better, but this is what we're working with right now. And it was like very much humble beginnings, I think, because we were just lifting rocks and
yeah, literally
walking around with plates over our, like we were just doing crazy
med ball
shit.
throws with rocks.
Yeah, it was
just like
nuts.
lifting on the road.
Yeah.
And in the corner, like it was just like half the garage was taken up by his like
Ultra G.
Yeah, well, half of it by the Ultra G, and then just like lawnmowers and like all his machinery.
But I would
just
say,
like some rocks and stuff in one corner.
Like things have definitely gotten a bit more like glamorous over the years, but in terms of like the work we were able to put in, like Dathan kind of like never left any stone unturned. And so like, yeah, like we were lifting in his garage, like just, I mean, like we didn't have a treatment person at the time. And so he's like flying out Jason, who ultimately ended up being like one of our main guys now, but like just seeing early on his dedication to like yeah, just because we don't have all the pieces in place. Like, we're going to get those pieces in place, but like, we're still not going to leave any stone unturned. Like, we're going to get in, like, we're going to start lifting right away, even though like those early lifts, like, I kid you not, we could not do a single thing on there. Like, Dathan would just be like showing us up in the weight room, and like he was doing things that like were literally physically impossible for us to do.
Yeah, I couldn't do half the shit. Like, it was crazy.
I felt like we were like flopping around the cement floor in his garage.
I felt like a wet noodle. Like,
Yeah.
it was ridiculous. And then we're thinking, okay, like Dathan wanted to test our fitness a little bit when we were kind of more established, and we're doing this sub 4 effort in Niwot. And I remember Dathan was trying to keep it chill because of COVID and stuff, but people were turning out because it's a new team. People want to know what the hell is going on. And me and Joe ran sub 4 there, 358, 356.
Some great spikes.
With the Shinkers, which I don't think people will not know about the Shinkers much. There's this on spike that was initially like sent to us, and the first race we did was actually in Tennessee. But
No. The mile was the first race.
I think the mile was
the mile
first.
was before Tennessee.
The mile was, but like
because
the
we
race,
like
the race was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
The mile race, yeah, we was. And I remember Joe finishing the race, and I was trying to walk around with it, and Joe's like just yelling out, "Fuck my feet!" Like, they were just like
raw,
really bad spikes. Like, they just weren't like they were fine for what we could use. Like, they weren't terrible in the sense of like it was gonna make
like performance, but like
it just the hot feet. You just get a hot feet with them.
Yeah.
But we did that, and I remember Dathan called me after that race. We were heading back to Maxwell Morgs.
Yeah.
And Dathan just goes to me, he's like, we're going to do something special here. I know it's coming. Like, everyone here, we're going to work and we're going to get to a better place, and it's going to be awesome. Trust me. And I was like, I trust you. Like, we were able to do something pretty crazy here. And moving on from that, I ran 334 in my first race. Joe ran 337.
37, yeah.
Yeah, and again, hot feet. Like, I was like this, trying to like not put my feet on the back of the thing, and Joe's like trying to take his shoes off as quickly as possible. But
we can talk about how bad they were now because of how
good they are now.
Amazing they are now.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about those shoes was the guy who was like in charge of making them, like great guy, still works with the brand.
Lovely
but
bloke.
he had like so much on his plate that like making those spikes he probably did in like 30 minutes just because of like he was literally making everything for On. And like we remember at one point, like after that race, I remember seeing like On posted this photo of him like at a table like this with Roger Federer like making a shoe. I'm like, oh, this is why like he didn't have any time for our spikes. He's like literally making Roger Federer's tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And he was like
doing everything.
He was like Roger Federer's guy. Like he would go to all of his meets or like tennis matches and like tweak his shoes and stuff. And so I was like, oh, it makes sense like why our shoes are on the back burner. But then like fast forward now, and it's like an innovation team, lightning team it's called, of like 30 people.
Yeah, it was one guy.
It was one guy.
And now it's over 30 people.
That's just the growth of the company
30
as well.
people just making performance apparel and shoes. And that was one guy making performance apparel and shoes for running, tennis, luge or whatever.
Every other shoe as well. Like,
Yeah.
he was doing everything. And like that just shows you the growth of the brand too. Like, they've just gone from like one level to another very, very quickly. And for us, we were kind of in that transitional process of not being any performance shoes to doing these great workouts, working out in the gym, hitting these times. And then slowly when the products started to come in and they started to be able to build financing, like get this team to be able to support these athletes, things started to get rolling, and it was pretty cool to be a part of that process, because we literally got told, I'm sure with our phone calls signing with them, was like, oh, we're gonna send a performance team, like we're gonna build a performance team around you, you're gonna be the start of it. And literally we were.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now we have this product that's coming out that's gonna be evening out the playing field for us, and the performances have been there. Now the product's going to be there. It's pretty exciting to be able to take that journey and see where we came from, really humble beginnings, to now. So
The cool thing about the performance team though is they literally feel like they're like on our team.
yeah,
Like the head of Jordan Donnelly was saying like he's taking his vacation after the Diamond League final, which is like when all of us will take our vacation. And so like his whole like schedule lines up with our racing schedule.
Yeah.
Like he was in Oslo, he'll be at World Champs, he was at Penn Relays, like just getting data on the spikes, what we like, what we don't like. Like, I mean, we were doing our workout in St. Moritz and he was on the phone on our cool down with one of the other Lightning team members who was in the factories in Vietnam, like saying like, all right, for the next pair off the line, we need to like tweak this certain thing, tweak that. And so it's like, in a way, still very like grassroots and like small operation, but like the team that we have is like totally world class. And like
no other brand does that though. No other brand like communicates that acutely with their athletes.
No,
Yeah.
I was literally staying at his house a few days
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Carmela was staying at his house too when she was in Zurich. So
Yeah, it's pretty
they're
special.
they're very, very like just good people, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with the Lightning team. And I think the exciting thing as well moving forward is, I mean, even Milrose, for example, I think a lot of our fans would know about that one was huge for the brand, because that was when the first rendition of the spikes came out, and they were testing them with Joe, Alicia, and George, and like there was this kind of anticipation of like, are they going to wear them, like, and then they come out and then just George and Alicia kill it. Sage as well, wearing the spike. She was wearing the other version, right? Yeah.
It would honestly be great to have like a backstory of like the weeks leading up to even just like the week leading up to Milrose. Like, I feel like that was like so much happened in that 1 week. Like, we first saw the spikes, which I wasn't like competing, I was injured, but like for Jordy and Ollie and Alicia, it was like they first saw the spikes, and then it was like, yeah, like, are they going to wear them? Are they not going to wear them? And then like Alicia goes and wins, Jordy goes and wins, like in the shoes, and it was just like,
I mean, Sage had a great race.
and then
in the
Sage
mile
too, like, had a great 800, but yeah, it was like this whole thing of like, were they going to wear them or not? And like, it just kind of sucks we didn't like really get that captured, like like media wise, because I think that a lot of people would like to see those like behind the scenes stories, because it's not just like, I don't want to say like as glamorous as it appears on the outside, but it's like much more like there's so much more that goes into it than just like getting the shoes, wearing the shoes. You
the
know?
character in it, like Jordan was shaving off side of the plate just to get people to wear it because the plate wasn't correct, and to be able to capture that for an audience that is fans of our group or fan of the sport, it for the brand itself, for Jordan, like that's such a good light on like what it takes to be competing in such a high intensity sport of spikes in general. It's just like it's changed the game. Now, like Jordan had a great saying that the athlete is the cake and the spikes are the icing. Like that's like really a good analogy of what the Lightning team's about. And now fast forward to where we are now, it's crazy. It's been 2 years, and now we have product that is just like maybe even better than our competitors.
Not a lot of product. Like, you raced in your spikes in Oslo, and then 2 days later, Jordy raced in the same pair in Paris.
We
So,
have
like,
one product.
They're coming.
We have one.
They're coming off the
Next
line.
One
month.
spike.
Next month.
One spike, but they are sending them out, and I personally, and Jordy and Joe, I think feel the same way. The spike that we're wearing is better than the Dragonfly. It's a really good spike, so it's exciting to be able to see a product like that and train it in St. Moritz and be like, this is freaking sweet. And like, again, capturing in St. Moritz.
Yeah.
There's no media there for St. Moritz, unfortunately, which was like a shame, because like all that build up to Oslo and Paris and the new rendition of the spikes, there was no media to cover it, and it was a real shame, because I think the athlete going through that process, for a fan, the engagement there would be pretty big.
The first 1K rep with the new spikes on went out in like 28.
Yeah, you went out really quick. Yeah, because they felt too good. Like Joe's like, oh shit, I couldn't.
Dude, that
pace
shit would
myself.
be so good to put in a video.
Luckily, we
next
got a
time.
photo of it that I think I posted. That was
You
like,
did mention
I was like
it,
20
yeah.
meters up on Jordy, and we ran
Yeah.
like 2:33 or something. So
It's a shame that
yeah,
the
like
media's not
moving.
there for that, but the product and the performances are there. So like, it's exciting to be able to follow that journey ourselves and be really invested in each other and what we're doing. So
Yeah, I think that, I mean, we're still young in certain ways, so that media stuff hopefully catches up to the rest of the stuff which we're talking about, which is so amazing. I think at the end of the day, if you look at like what you've talked about, a lot of it comes down to just having the right people. I think everyone on this team gives Ritz a lot of credit, because his dedication and his passion is pretty unrivaled in terms of being a coach. I couldn't imagine him being anything but a professional running coach. His intensity and just attention to detail, it's so amazing. And obviously, it's a big reason for the results, but then also you have to give credit to every single member of the team as well, because
100%.
it's just crazy, and it's been so sweet. And yeah, those 2 years went by very quickly.
And now we've just signed two of the best 1500 meter milers in the it's crazy. Like, I definitely I'm excited for them to come here and train with us, and I think it just shows. I think Jordy was mentioning that like we're definitely established now as a group. I feel like our first year was all about proving ourselves and proving like we belong in this circuit of professional running. Where now I think we're established to the point where like I think we don't need to like have people going, who's the OAC? I think people know who we are now.
yeah, like if it's like a 1 year thing, like did they just like come out of the gates hot and have one good year? It's like, no, like now we have. It's not just Ollie performing well. It's not just Alicia. It's like, yeah, we have like you guys at the top, and we got like, but then we have like even people like moving up, like Sage, like moving up development.
Sub
like,
two.
Like now she's sub 2, and she's like starting to kill it on the Diamond League circuit, and like she's just like clawing her way to like the world ranks in the 800 meter.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just really cool to see that, yeah, it's not just like we have one or two guys like a lot of teams have who are like tearing it up on the world scene. It's like the whole team, I feel like, is making these like steps forward towards being at that level.
Yeah, and we're so invested in each other as well. I think it's just great, like being able to celebrate results with each other is just, it's been a really fun ride, and I'm excited for more results to come because I know they are. And yeah, it's crazy. And I can definitely see now that for me personally, I'm going to say it, but I think we are definitely one of the best groups in the world in this sport. So it's pretty cool to be able to create something like that, and Ritz is definitely deserves a lot of credit for it, and Jordan and the Lightning team being able to like respond and build a performance product in such a short amount of time is pretty incredible.
And you got even a step further, like the people at the top at On, like you know, they're like building these teams, like you know, the Lightning team, our team, like the marketing team. It's just like they've really picked the right people, and like you could say it's by luck, but also like things just keep going right. And so at some point you got to like not attribute that to luck and say, yeah, I think that who's like steering this ship is pretty smart, and like a lot of right decisions have been made along the way.
We were meeting with two of the founders last week, and the CEO was asking for one of our like OAC Artican like bands. Like Ritz literally took his one off his wrist and gave it to our CEO.
Yeah.
Because he was that invested in our team.
Yeah, like he texted
me. I want one of those.
Yeah, and he like he texts us like after like a good race. Like I'm sure Ollie and like myself after Oslo. Like he's watching our races. He's not just like having it on the TV. He's like invested. Like he was like telling me like, oh, I thought you were gonna win. Like your move was amazing. Like he knows the sport coming from his triathlon background, but like. Yeah, it's very cool like how invested they are in like what we're doing, more than just like, yeah, we want to see you on a podium. Like they're invested in the journey of what we're doing.
Definitely, and I think Olivier as well. Like I remember going to the Zurich Diamond League final. His kids like watched it with him. Like he got his kids to watch like the USA Olympic trials. So to have a founder that invested in what we're doing is pretty cool. And the coolest thing was going to that. When we went to check the HQ out, I looked at Jordan's laptop, Coffee Club sticker, bang on there.
Oh, yeah, we should probably comment on the new headquarters. Like, it's insane. I guess you didn't go, but dude, it was insane. Like their old building, from my impression, was like a few like 3-story building, like really small, and then like across the way now, it's like this 20-story skyscraper with an On logo on the top. And like we were sitting out front there having coffee, and like how many people do you think like between the hotel, having coffee, going for our run, like so many people were like. And then we went in the new store. It was crazy. Like everyone knew who OAC was. Like we went in the store and like they were setting up for the day, and like they got all the employees to stop what they were doing, to like take a photo with us, chat with us for a while. Like it was really cool. Like for me, my first time in Europe, like going to Zurich and just seeing like, wow, like the response here, it's not just like they know who OAC is. Like you go to Nike or Adidas, like you're a running team, you go to their headquarters. Do you think like all the employees know who the running team is? Like very unlikely, you know, but with On, it's like really cool to see that.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes it feel very special, and it is very special. I think this has been a kind of long one. I think on that note, we can probably end it. Joe's got to get up to some.
I got to get up to treatment. I'm already like 40 minutes late.
Got to go to treatment, but definitely, yeah, we want to give a shout out to the new people that just signed, Mario and Yared. Good luck to Yared and Sage in USA's this weekend. We didn't even have really time for a US Champs preview, but hopefully they both go out there and crush it. So
I mean, Yared Nagus, I'm going to put him for the win.
Yeah.
Yared Nagus for the win, 1,500 meters. Sage.
Do a review once they make the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, Sage, I mean, she's been training amazing, so I'm excited to see what she can do in that 800.
Yeah, but I think on that note, thanks for coming, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. That's episode 40.